About a year ago, I was put into contact with the publicist for Carl Gottlieb. Mr. Gottlieb is an actor, writer, and director who got his start on The Glenn Campbell Show and The Smothers Brothers in the 1960s, and he's written countless hours of television. Or you could probably count them if you really wanted to. But it's enough that it would definitely be a chore. He also wrote one of the absolute funniest movies ever, The Jerk.
These cans are defective!
Mr. Gottlieb also wrote Jaws 2 and Jaws 3D. Oh, and he also wrote Jaws. Jaws is one of the greatest films ever made and has absolutely been talked to death. Which is why, when I emailed him at his publicist's recommendation, I informed him that I had already begun reading this, The Jaws Log. A book that, frankly, I'm shocked I hadn't read sooner. It is, as a quote in the cover says, like a little movie director Bible. That's a great quote. Who said that? Oh man, Bryan Singer. This edition was published in 2012. I don't think he'd make the cover today, but let's see who else is on here. Oh nice, everybody loves Jim. Mr. Fantastic, Mr. Krasinski. His quote is spot on. This is, without a doubt, one of the greatest books about making movies. I wish I had read this book when I was about 17 and attempting to make my first movie. On VHS. Actually, mini DV. I failed, and Steven Spielberg very nearly did as well. Forewords aside, including one by Peter Benchley, the first line of the book puts the proper lens on things. When the film was made, and this book first written, Jaws was not yet a show business phenomenon and pop culture icon. The book goes back to 1971, when Jaws the novel was optioned before it itself had become a hit. And then it chronicles the process of how it became a hit and it became a big book and a big movie. When Benchley sold the rights to the book, the deal included $25,000 for Benchley to write the first draft of the screenplay. Something my mentor, the truly great and unfortunately passed on now, Sid Stiebel, told me: if you sell a book, make sure you negotiate the rights to the first draft of the screenplay. To me, the most interesting aspect of the book is the perspective on Steve, not yet Steven Spielberg. He was a young TV director who had a lot of potential and huge upside, but he hadn't yet, at this point in the book, released his first feature, and when he did, it was kind of a bust. For Mr. Spielberg, Jaws was kind of make or break. And as the Jaws log chronicles, it was very nearly break. Maybe make a joke about him getting eaten by a shark. That'd probably be more appropriate, but probably not very funny. The book goes into very specific detail of every step along the process and examines trends in filmmaking from the 1970s that are still applicable today. Today, every single studio wants a Marvel-like shared universe. Back then, every single studio was making disaster movies.
Who will survive the Poseidon adventure?
Earthquake. The Towering Inferno.
Airport.
Airport, 1975.
Airport 77. Bigger, more exciting than Airport 75.
What the hell? We're gonna crash. We're gonna be killed. I know we're all gonna be killed.
That disaster movie trend is kind of what got Mr. Gottlieb the writing job. He was actually friends with Mr. Spielberg prior to this. And I think at one point they were almost kind of packaged together as a duo. It might have come after this or before this. I don't know. That's not in my notes. But that was something that was thrown out there, that they would be kind of a team of director and writer. Mr. Spielberg sent the script asking Mr. Gottlieb what part he wanted to play. When I had read the script a few times more, I sent Steven a long note outlining my reactions. I thought it would make great popular entertainment. I expressed fears that it would turn into another Poseidon adventure or Airport, with cardboard characters doing plastic things, and I expressed hope that if it realized its full potential, the oceans of the world would be as devoid of swimmers as showers were after Alfred Hitchcock had Janet Leigh stabbed to death in the Bates Motel in Psycho. In short, I said, it's almost there. Mr. Gottlieb replied with that aforementioned quote and a long note outlining his reactions to the script.
Look, it's not just the Gazette. She's advertising in out-of-town papers. Now, people...
Mr. Gottlieb, being the writer, appropriately got cast as the newspaper man, which he would actually later ironically basically cut out of his own script for the betterment of the story. But his character and a government corruption subplot got cut. It was all superfluous. Jaws is a great film. It's a straight line of a character-driven adventure film. The novel, as some books are wont to do, kind of meandered here and there and went in a lot of different directions, where the script kind of stayed much more of a straight line. Again, the process of making the film was anything but a straight line. The Jaws log gives what essentially amounts to a day-by-day chronicle of the making of the film as well. Mr. Gottlieb does a brilliant job of establishing that feeling of stress on a daily basis. The film obviously went on to become an absolute classic, an all-time great film, one of my favorite movies ever. However, the detail that Mr. Gottlieb gives in the Jaws log is so thorough and so interesting that even if the film had failed, I think this book would have still been absolutely essential reading. It's that good. Of just a book about filmmaking without that stuff. I think it's much better for Jaws having been a masterpiece. The book, as with the film, ends with a shark, which seemed hell on earth for all parties involved. Well, hell on water, which is like maybe boiling hell? Which is probably far worse. At least you're dead before the shark eats you? It also goes into on-set disputes that broke people down, issues with Teamsters and locals, and on and on and on. And the overall tension that just permeated the set. Again, the film literally became the highest grossing ever, and this was before every big movie released went on to become the highest grossing film ever. Granted, in part of that was because before 1975, movie studios didn't advertise movie trailers on TV, and that changed in 1975, so that's probably a contributing factor. But that's a subject for another video. The brilliance of this book is summed up in the last line. All of us, and hundreds more unnamed, made Jaws. Would Jaws be Jaws without Carl Gottlieb? Maybe.
So then nobody was available.
Without Steven Spielberg?
No, because he'll be so energetic. He'll be screaming and yelling at the great whites.
Again, maybe, but probably not. However, Jaws is Jaws because of everyone involved. From Mr. Gottlieb, to Mr. Spielberg, to Joe Alves, to Verna Fields, and her swimming pool. So I highly recommend you dive in, take a bite, buy this book and read it. It's quite good. Bye.